In 1993, a letter was delivered to a house that had been standing empty for 12 years. The postmark was from a nearby town, dated July 1981. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, and the envelope was perfectly sealed, never opened. No one knew who sent it, or why it had taken over a decade to cross just a few miles. This single piece of mail would stir up a silence that had settled over the small town of Wren Hollow, and awaken a mystery that time had tried to forget. Wren Hollow, tucked into the folds of the Oregon coast, was the kind of place that didn't change much. It had a single main street, a diner where the pie was still $1.50, and a post office that closed at 4 p.m. sharp. People knew each other's dogs by name. Life here was slow, predictable, and for the most part, kind. But there was one house that stood apart from this gentle rhythm, pale green craftsman on the edge of town. It had remained empty since the summer of 1981. Locals called it the Miller House, though no one had seen the Millers in years. They had simply vanished. One day they were there, the next they were gone. There was no moving truck, no goodbye parties, just an unsettling absence. The house stood quiet, its porch sagging just a little, its mailbox rusted shut from years of disuse. The neighborhood children instinctively avoided it, and the adults, well, they didn't talk about it. It wasn't considered haunted, not in the traditional sense. It was just ... forgotten, until that letter arrived. It was a Tuesday morning when Doris Keene, the town's postmaster, first noticed the envelope. It felt out of place among the modern bills and junk mail. There was no return address, only a faded stamp and that date, July 14th, 1981. The handwriting was unmistakable, elegant, looping cursive, the kind you rarely see anymore, from someone who learned to write in the 1950s. Doris hesitated. The Miller house hadn't received a single piece of mail in over a decade, but protocol was protocol. A letter addressed is a letter delivered. So she slipped the envelope into her satchel and, breaking her usual routine, decided to walk it over herself. The house loomed larger up close, weathered by years of coastal wind and rain. The mailbox was stiff, its metal groaning in protest as she forced it open. It had been sealed shut by rust and time. She placed the mysterious envelope inside, raised the little red flag, and walked away, feeling a strange sense of unease. That very afternoon, a powerful storm rolled in from the Pacific. It was the kind of storm that made the ancient trees bend and the power flicker on and off across town. The wind howled and rain lashed against the windows of every home in Wren Hollow. By the next morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean. Curiosity got the better of Doris. On her morning walk, she glanced towards the Miller house. The mailbox was closed. The little red flag was down. But the letter? The letter was gone. No one had taken it. She had asked the neighbors. No one had seen a soul near the property. The envelope, which had waited 12 years to be delivered, had vanished as mysteriously as it had arrived. Doris couldn't let it go. She reported the incident to Sheriff Tom Rayner, more out of a need to tell someone than any real concern. He just shrugged it off. "Probably the wind, Doris," he said, not looking up from his paperwork. A strong gust could have snatched it, but Doris knew better. That mailbox had been rusted shut for years. It didn't just open on its own, and the wind doesn't close a mailbox and lower its flag. This was something else. A quiet puzzle that had landed right on her route. So she began to ask questions. Quietly, of course. She didn't want to start any town gossip. She started by calling Helen Miller's sister, who lived up in Astoria. The sister confirmed she hadn't heard from Helen since that very summer in 1981. She sounded sad, resigned, as if she had given up hope of ever knowing what happened. Next, Doris dug through old high school yearbooks at the library until she found a photo of James Miller, Helen's husband. He had a friendly, open face and had worked as a DJ at the local radio station. He was known for his smooth voice and classic rock playlists. Nothing about him suggested a man who would just disappear. Her investigation led her to a retired mail carrier, a man who had walked the route before her. He remembered the Millers. He recalled them receiving letters pretty regularly, always in the same elegant handwriting from someone named Eleanor. But when Doris checked the town records, the name Eleanor was nowhere to be found. It was another dead end. Days turned into weeks. The mystery of the letter settled back into the quiet corners of Doris's mind, an unsolved riddle. Then, one evening, as she was heading home, she found a second envelope. This time, it was tucked under her own front doormat. Her heart pounded. It was the same handwriting, the same type of paper. And when she looked at the corner where the postmark should be, it was dated July 14th, 1981. It was addressed to her. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. Inside, there was no long-lost message, no grand confession. Just a single chilling sentence, written in that same elegant script. Some things are better left unopened. There was no signature, no explanation. Just those 6 words. The Miller house remains empty to this day. A silent monument to a story without an ending. But every year, on July 14th, Doris Keene walks by. It's become a small, private ritual. She checks the rusted mailbox. She looks at the sagging porch. She lets her gaze drift up to the windows. And just once on a still, quiet evening, she saw a light on in the upstairs window. It was soft and flickering, like someone reading a letter by lamplight. She didn't go in. She didn't call the sheriff. She didn't tell a soul. She just stood there for a moment, then turned and walked home. But she remembers the letter, and she remembers the words. Some messages, it seems, arrive too late to be answered, but they never stop echoing in the silence. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the quiet mystery of Wren Hollow. If you enjoy stories that linger long after they're told, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more. We love exploring the strange and forgotten corners of the world. See you next time.